Buenos dias and bienvenidos to our Argentina family that just came on board. This is Captain Ando. I am the Dark Star Strategist. I want to give a brief little instructional video on Armada setups, what is some standard Armada etiquette in the DSG Alliance, and some ways you can increase your performance when we go and do Armadas, because that's one of our favorite activities here is to do Armadas. And I want to explain to you a little bit about that. My apologies, lo siento, to our totally Spanish speaking crew. I don't have enough proficiency in Spanish to speak to you intelligently. Most of my Spanish was forgotten since the 1990s, and I'm pretty sure I've forgotten half my English words since the 1990s. So Spanish, I just don't really stand a chance to explain the entire thing. But I'll try to stick to words that most people can understand. And if you'd like, if you want to learn more, maybe you can have some of your people who are more bilingual in English and Spanish explain it to you. That would be helpful as well. So I appreciate that for all you Spanish speakers out there. Now, Armadas are a fun way to pass the time in this alliance. We have some big ships around, a lot of tier 6 enterprises with me, Lux, and Doc, and we have some big Stellas and Vidars if the board Armadas ever come up, but we have some big Stellas as well. I have tier 9 that I can use for the what we call Armadas. So we can have a lot of fun with that. There are a lot of crew setups that are out there. It depends on what ship you bring. If you're in a standard Armada and you have an Enterprise, you'll notice I don't have Spock in my bridge. That is because the Enterprise has the ability giving what she's got. And that basically acts as a Spock, so it restores shield health anytime I get hit. So I don't need Spock in my bridge. That frees my crew lineups to whatever I want. In my case, I like to use the Borg. I recently acquired 6 of 10 because he has the ability We Are the Borg, which does work on Armadas, and that when the ship hits an opponent with weapon attack, it increases the opponent's shield health by 20% of the total defense of all officers on the ship. So that's additional shield draining capabilities. I call him my stripper. So when you hear the term stripper, that is who I'm referring to. And I bring him out there to strip the shields down quickly, because what you'll find is, especially on the regular Armadas, the big ones, once those shields go down, the fight ends fairly quickly, and that's how you can usually survive, is when their shields go down first. His other ability is also very useful for Armada. It's actually specifically for Armadas, and that will increase the piercing stats, so shield piercing, armor piercing, and accuracy. That means that basically when the Armada mitigates damage, and I'll show you if I have it, a couple of examples, what will happen is near the end, you'll look in the battle logs after this ability's ramped up a bit. I'm gonna have to go near the bottom, so bear with me. There's been a lot of people in these in these Armadas. Okay. So first of all, you can see it's taking down the shield health when the ability triggers, but once it goes down, that's when the effect really comes in. So I'll find that it's probably around round 12 or 13, maybe 14 or 15. Okay, yeah, now the shields are down here. So what you'll start seeing is a lot of your hits. Now it's hard to tell here, but you can see 90,000 health damage went right to it. That's quite a bit. And that was on a pretty big hit. But I'll get a couple crits side by side so you can see the difference there. So when I crit and Lux crits. Okay. Or even when we don't crit. Okay, so here's 2 regular hits. Me and Lux. His was actually a little bit bigger. But as you can see, when his hit, the armor of the watch post mitigated 105,610 damage. So it took him down all the way to 85,000 whole health damage. My hit was about 30,000 weaker, but as you can see, it mitigated only 68,914 damage. So it actually received more damage even though that individual hit was weaker. So you can see that the value of increasing penetration does take effect in the long run. So that's what I wanted you to see with that. That's why I chose 6 of 10. I always run him as my stripper because I have him, and I don't believe Lux and Doc have him unlocked yet. So that tends to be my lineup. Now I also run Kirk with that. He adds morale to the ship. That's what triggers my giving what she's got ability and restore shields. So on an Enterprise, I never lose shields while Kirk is anywhere on the bridge. And the last character I tend to run is Khan. And if you weren't aware, he adds critical hit chance every time the ship takes an attack. So right now I got him at 4%. I tried to build him up to that last 5%, but it takes a while. He's over 800 shards for the final promotion. So that's a standard lineup for an Enterprise. If you don't have an Enterprise and you bring something like a Saladin or an Intrepid, you're going to have to put Spock in your bridge somewhere. So I suggest if you do run a Saladin or something like that, this lineup is typically about optimal. It gives you that crit percentage, so later on in the fight your hits will crit a lot more and you'll do a lot bigger damage, and you'll have Kirk and Spock to keep your ship alive longer, because what you'll discover, especially when you're running with the big ships and the big armadas, you'll probably die out halfway through the battle. The longer you survive, the more you can A, take damage for us, and B, do damage to the armada. So if it's a really close battle, the group's survival depends on your holding out as long as you possibly can. So this is a good lineup. Now, with your belly crew, the crew that you have not in the bridge, you want to make sure that all your crew stats meet the 300% bonus on the side here, because that will benefit your damage, that will make you survive longer, and that will enable you to take more hits. So whatever you set it up with, it doesn't hugely matter what you put below decks, but it does matter in the fact that it'll give you more durability and damage as long as you get the 300% bonus. So if you don't have your ship tiered enough where you can get it, try to get as close as possible. Probably favoriting health percentage over the other two stats, but you want to try to get each of your stats as close to 300% as you can. So that's what you typically want to do with that when you do that. Now, I do a slightly different setup. I take Khan out of this lineup and I put 6 of 10 back in, specifically if I run my Stella. That's because the shield stripping bonus is a big deal, but you still want to maintain that morale bonus. You can do other things like hull breach and things like that in your lineups if you want, but if you're not running an Enterprise and you have to put Spock in one of those seats, it usually makes it not as effective as when you got an Enterprise do it. So you have basically the free Spock slot you can put to someone else. So that's the basics of Armadas. I'm going to go ahead and hop back in my Enterprise, put Spock back below decks in place of Khan, and I'm going to go ahead and run an Armada. Now, there's a couple ways you can run Armadas. You can run it solo, and if you want to do that, you just go out and chat and say solo alongside it. Otherwise, you can run an Armada with other Alliance members, which is more fun, but does take away some of your rewards that you get from getting solo. So that's just something to be aware of. None in Parturi Beta. I'm going to look at Ansat Alpha, see if there's one there. Otherwise, I'll run one outside of the outside of our spaces. So we'll look at Ansat Beta real quick. Just to see if there's anything here, which there doesn't appear to be, which is fine. I'll just go out and I'll run one out in normal space. So with my ship, I can pretty much solo a 35. So no matter who's on, if I run this, I can bring people along, or they cannot come if no one's around, and that will be okay. And that's usually what I start with, so it gives people a chance to earn some rewards. So we'll look here in Sirius, see if there's any. Okay, there's a 35 rare. I don't want to run that. Exactly. Look in Veneer, that's another one that has 35s. And if you have free time and free directives, you're more than welcome to just try to solo an Armada just to see if you can do it. You don't have to, but it helps to know exactly what you can and can't solo, because then you can, and then if you start one and no one's around, you won't lose the Armada, you'll still win. So I'm going to go ahead and start this Romulan watch post here, and see who comes out, because there's a few people on. Okay, so I formed the Armada. Now you can tell people you're interested in this Armada instead of by going out. You can just click on this little icon here that says join my Armada, and that will let people know you're interested, and you can tell them how many spots. So I have 5 spots available because I have a level 39 Armada Control Center. Now, the Armada Control Center helps 2 things when you level it. It will help your damage. The damage output will increase for the entire team when your Armada Control Center is bigger, and the amount of spots you'll be able to fit. At 30, you'll get 4 spots. At 20, you'll get 3 spots. At 10, you'll get 2 spots. And less than that, you'll only have 1 spot available. And at 39, that's where you transition to 5 spots. So once you get there, it helps because you can run with a lot of people here. And now I don't see anyone signing up yet, but what will happen is once you do, you want to call, once someone volunteers, if they volunteer, you just tell that person's name, okay? Or you can just say how many more. Either way, but just let them know that you acknowledge they're on their way and coming to help you get the Armada done. So that's kind of key there. You want to make sure that the Armada leader always controls who gets to come. If you know that it's a big one and you're not sure if just anyone can beat it, you can use the term known as bump rule. A bump rule means that it will allow the biggest players to automatically take the spot no matter what. And if you think it's probably a safe Armada, I don't recommend this. It kind of leaves the people who are just trying to build their ships and get the rewards out, and it favors people like myself because obviously I got one of the biggest ships, but I have no trouble getting into these for obvious reasons, so I don't want to monopolize the Armadas that we do. I want everyone to share in the fun. So I tend to encourage people not to use bump rule unless you know you have to. Now, some people are not the best at paying attention, so they will either show up the Armada without mentioning it in Alliance chat, or they will show up unexpectedly. Unfortunately, that's what we discourage. If you want to spot an Armada, usually you broadcast your intentions in Alliance chat, and that way the Armada leader knows who's coming, so if too many people come, they know who gets in and who does not. So that's very important as an Alliance or as an Armada leader, is to keep track of who you got. And there is a nice little capability within the Armada. If you click on the Armada flag and then you click on the little icon next to Armada size, once people start filling the slots, you'll see them show up and you'll see a little star icon next to it. that will tell you, if you click on that star, that will reserve that spot for that person. So if you had a bunch of people come to your Armada but only reserved so many spots, you can click on that person and they'll automatically get into your Armada up to the amount of spots that you have. So that's very important. In this situation where you have a lot of confusion, you're not sure who's supposed to get it, available to get in, and who's not. I'll show you an example here in a second with my own ship. Now my star pops in automatically. The leader obviously has to be in the Armada because they started it, but everyone else will have a outline of a star that you can check when they get here to guarantee they get a spot. So I'm going to do that with 3 and with one lump of coal when they get here, just to show you and to guarantee they get a spot. And Boytrana is coming out. You're getting called out in the first YouTube video that I'm aware of, but and then that leaves me 1 more spot, or 2 more spots. So now they'll get here. Hopefully he's friendly with Romulans, because I didn't send a ship to clear off the hunters if he comes in. But we'll see. I can always send out my discovery at a moment's notice if he gets in trouble. So we'll see about that. Anyway, we'll sorry to make you sit through the entire thing. I'm not going to make you sit through the entire Armada, but I did want to show you the star capability when someone arrives. So we'll see who first gets here, and I'll show you that. Oh, and I didn't mention, as far as the crewing goes, you'll hear 2 more terms. Remember how I said there was a 6 of 10 is basically a stripper because he strips the shields. There is also what's known as a breacher lineup and a burning lineup. So a burning lineup is something that has officer who has burning as the bridge officer ability. So that is one of 2 characters. It is Nero, because Nero, when I find him, he has the ability, you see the flaws. Every time the ship strikes the opponent with a weapon attack, Nero has a 40% of burning it for 2 rounds, and that is not maxed. I think it goes up to 50% when it's maxed. Also, there is someone who I just got myself. There is Giorgio. Giorgio has the ability Deceptive Warfare, which operates a little more like Kirk's does. The beginning of the round, she has a 50% of burning the opponent's ship for 2 rounds. It's actually the better option. She's a better burning officer if you can get her, but most people have Nero. Most people do not have Giorgio. Now, something that's just came out is what's known as breaching. So there's 2 options for breaching. There is Gabriel Lorca, who's a lot like Giorgio, but instead of burning, he does hull breach at the beginning of the ship for 2 rounds. And conversely, the one you'll see that most people have is Gorkin. So when you look at Gorkin, his ability is creating opportunities. Now, I got him maxed out, so where he's at, he has 90% of causing a hull breach for 3 rounds. It's a very solid ability. It just requires a critical hit to trigger the chance, and then once it triggers the chance, it is right now mine has a 90% chance of doing it. Hull breach is very important, and the reason that these are important abilities, hull breach, what it does is it adds another 80% critical damage for anyone who's fighting the Armada. So it doesn't matter whether it's you cause the hull breach or not. Anyone who crits on a hull breach target it will cause 80% more damage. So when we come into these armadas, I often have Doc, also known as the Browns. Let Dark know he's got +1. So Doc, he usually runs Gork in his lineup. That's so we can have a hull breach benefit in the entire team. Burning's a little different. Burning, what happens is it not only triggers some officer abilities, but it does 1% of the maximum hull hit points of damage as a background effect. So every time the Armada burns, these things have a lot of health. Specifically, I'll click on the Armada. So this Armada here, when you scan it, it has 15 million health. So 1% of that, that's going to be 150,000. Yeah, 150,000 damage it takes each round it's burning. So if you have an officer ability that triggers burning, that can be extremely useful for these Armadas. Now that's what the 3 enterprises tend to run. We tend to do 1 breach, 1 stripper, 1 burning. That way we can have the team benefit from all the effects of all those abilities. Another officer that can be very useful for these, it depends which one you're running, but you can either run Decius, because Decius has I'll have to find him real quick. His officer ability specifically, you want to run him in an officer slot, will give him, every time the shit gets hit by a weapon attack, it increases the weapon damage. Right now I got a 9%, that'll increase to 10% once I promote him again, but I'm not quite there yet. And there's also a similar ability in Eurydice. She has the captain ability, Opportunist. So when the ship loses shield health from a weapon attack, she increases the damage 10% cumulatively. So that actually happens every time it's hit. So that's a big increase in the amount of damage you'll do near the end of it. There are some other characters that have benefits for Armadas. There's Mud. He decreases damage over time, and he has down but never out. So when the shields go down, that's kind of a if you're taking a lot of damage and you're not a very strong ship that can keep its shields up, that can be a very handy benefit to the team. But it's really just hit or miss. Those are the big ones that are really useful. You can also use 5 of 10 with a Kirk and Spock lineup. If you run her as captain, she'll have weaponry as irrelevant, and that'll increase your deflection capabilities and your mitigation. So that can make your survival even longer. And she has a nice little officer ability, which gives you more resources from hostiles, including Armadas. So your Armada rewards will actually increase when you run her on the bridge and not at the expense of anyone else. So that's a nice little bonus there. So now I got people in there. You can kind of start to see the effects of starring. So now I got these 2, Lump of Coal and Dark Noir. Right now, you can see the stars not filled in. So that means that they're not reserved a spot. They'll still get in as long as there's empty slots. But if we have more than 6 people come out, then it'll be someone will get bumped. And the way the bumping works is the person with the lowest ship power is the one that will get bumped. So if you have those low people who called their spots, you want to make sure you give them stars like this, so they're guaranteed their spot. And now we have 3 in, so you can see these people are guaranteed their spot. So even if someone shows up that's not supposed to, we'll still get them in. Crap, who did I lose? I'll send my Discovery out there to run interference. Yeah, that can be a trouble with these faction Armadas. So if you are hostile, you want to make sure you dodge a little bit. If you take them across the system, like out over here, like I'll take my Discovery over this way, and then drive the hostile away. What you can do is, if you bring the hostile far enough, as long as you make it back to the Armada within the 15-second time period, or outside of the 15-second time period, it'll be okay. See, Buitrania just made it in time. So, and his trained fighter's not going to get him. And as you'll hear Plow King say very often, blammo. Although none of the other ships survived, because the Enterprise is so big and so durable, it can survive quite a bit. So that's kind of handy there. And when we're done, we'll say thank you for coming. And if you want to run some more, you can do that. So we did run the full 15 minutes and just happened to be that way because I had enough to talk about. But if you have any questions, please reach out in Alliance chat, Discord. These Armadas are a lot of fun. We like to run them fairly frequently, and these are some tips that'll get you there. Remember there, when you crew the bridge, morale is priority. So Kirk and Spock if you don't have an Enterprise. Kirk and not Spock if you do. And other than that, just bring a officer that'll be very helpful. Khan is my first choice in most circumstances because that just makes your damage bigger over time. But it all depends. So really, that's all there is to it. If you have any questions, please reach out in Alliance chat, our Discord. If it's in language I don't understand, I'll have someone translate for me. And I'll try to answer your questions as best as I can. But this is Captain Ando. I am the Dark Star Strategist. Live long and prosper, and we'll see you next time.